Hi, this is Jim Connell. I'm here with Cassidy Jones, and she's a recent graduate. And I love interviewing students, and I just wanted to sit down and chat with her because she's done a lot of really interesting things, and has some aspirations for moving to San Francisco. And I wanted to pick her brain and see where she's at, and see how the conversation goes. So let's just jump right in. Cassidy, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. I really appreciate it.
No problem. No problem. So just a few questions. What led you to your interest in neuroscience?
So I think growing up, I've had interests in a ton of different things. I was really, really artsy and creative as a kid, and I really loved science. And go into high school, I still loved science, still loved art. But really, my senior year of high school, I took AP Psychology and AP Biology at the same time. And in my brain, it just kind of clicked. Like there are so many different things that coincide with the two subjects. And I was like, where can I find this? And so that's where neuroscience comes in. It's the biological processes that cause psychological outcomes. And I basically took that and ran with it. I was looking at schools when I was applying for college or applying for university. I was looking at schools that had a program related to cell molecular biology, neuroscience, anything like that. So that really was where it started. And I think that it's something that I can I pick up on little things in everyday life. It's something that I incorporate into a lot of my life and I'm thinking about subconsciously all the time. So I think it's the right track the right track to choose, or it was the right track to choose for myself.
Great. Let me throw a curveball at you, slightly. Tell me about the art minor because I'm really geeked out about art and I'm interested in that. I noticed that you had a minor in art, so tell me about that.
Yeah, so once again, a like very creative kid growing up. I was always painting and drawing. I like started sewing when I was 4. I crochet. I just did a bunch of stuff. And in middle school, I was in every single art and music club that I could be in. I also have been playing flute since I was 10 years old. Um, but in high school, picking an art elective, music band, like was the elective you could choose. And so I've not taken an actual instructive art course since middle school.
Uh,
And coming into college, I originally had a different minor that ended up getting dropped from the program, so I didn't pick that up. That was actually scientific commercialization, which is basically entrepreneurship in the realm of biotech. So that would have been really cool if it happened. But I needed extra credits in order to not graduate early. And last summer, I really, really wanted to do something for myself. And I was like, I really miss taking art classes. I want to challenge myself because I feel like I'm not, I don't know, it's a realm that I hadn't been within since I was a teenager. And so I picked up an art minor. It was 5 courses. I took 2 over the summer, 2 in the fall, and then 2 this past spring. And it was like one of the best decisions that I've ever made, I think.
Great. That's great. So do you have a favorite artist or can you name just one?
Since a young age, I've been very obsessed with Van Gogh, but that seems
Oh,
very, that's
oh,
pretty like basic. I think, but
wait. It is and it isn't. In my humble opinion, he's probably my favorite painter. And oh my gosh, we could talk about that forever. I'm going to go to the next question though. Thank you
okay.
for sharing that, and I just love that about you. Why did you choose Northeastern?
So, like I said, when I was applying to schools, I was looking at a lot of schools that had like very heavy science programs, stuff like that, but also were pretty well rounded and like had a very nice community and stuff like that. When I was looking at schools, I was also potentially thinking about playing volleyball. So I was looking at D3 schools. I think it was like 4 out of the 6 schools I applied to were D3 schools. But I ended up visiting Northeastern and falling in love with Boston. And then I think I got rejected from Tufts, and then a week later got into Northeastern, and I was like, great, here we go. Like, we're going to Boston. Yeah, and that pretty much was it. I heard it actually. I'd never heard about the school before my senior year of high school, or before early my senior year of high school. And my dad, he was like, oh, one of our like family friends, one of our friends' daughters goes to this school for business. Have you ever heard of it? And I was like, what is this school? Because the Midwest doesn't know anything about Northeastern. East Coast kids, like, it's a big deal, but
Yeah.
Midwest, everyone's like, Northeastern Illinois. And I'm like, well, I'm still a Husky, but
That's funny. That's great. Yeah, what's not to like about the East, in my opinion? I've never been to Boston. It's on my hit list. Can't believe I haven't been there yet, but I'm sure I've been to Vermont and stuff like that, and just I went to oh my gosh, Dartmouth. Went to that campus, and it's just all the campuses are just you feel like smarter just walking around.
yeah. If you want to explore campuses, there's like something like 100 colleges in a 20-mile radius in Boston or something like that. It's insane.
Wow. Wow, that's cool. So as you think about your education journey, I'm always interested in now, you know, there you are for 4 years plus probably, um, moving in and moving out, and all that stuff. You've been there a while, put it that way. What's some of the best advice that you were given as it relates to your educational journey? Because I'm sure taking some of the classes that you took could not have been easy. And that's very stressful at times, and you're on your own and away from family and all that kind of stuff. Just generally speaking, what's one or two pieces of advice that you got, and who gave it to you? As you were, continuing in your studies and in your journey of education?
Yeah, so um I have to credit the my faculty advisor as well as the behavioral neuroscience program director. Her name's Dr. Jennifer and Jemmy. I've had a couple classes with her. They've been my most favorite classes I've ever taken because I actually feel like I'm learning and absorbing things and I can use them as I progress onto my career. Um, she said this multiple times because we've had her speak at different events and things like that. She said, the 4 years of college, like your 4 years of college, you're going to think that they are going to be like the greatest years of your life. And she's like, they're going to be very, very difficult and you are going to be very, very stressed, but you're also going to be very, very happy. And then it's going to end and you are going to be afraid that it's never going to be like that again. And she goes, it gets better. It will always get better. These are not the best 4 years of your life. They are 4 years of your life that you should cherish, but you should continue on and find the things that will continue to make your life better. She also always likes to say, you can do hard things. And her one of the last classes I took with her, Cell and Molecular Neuroscience, which it was like a grad level course, is like my favorite. It was awesome. But she goes, welcome to my journey. We're going on a journey together. And I feel like I can relate that to like my entire college experience. I entered university COVID year and I was on campus, which was really, really great, but there were so many restrictions and like friends and figuring out things and campus and classes. There was a lot of isolated moments. There was a lot of moments where you're like, oh, this isn't like, when is it going to get better? Stuff like that. But the journey progressed. I did my 4 years and the journey continues to progress. And I think about her a lot because she's been, if not actively talking me through what my next step should be, her advice is always in like the back of my head.
That's great, man. That's really cool. I was there's a lot of wisdom in what she says, tons of wisdom. That's great that you had somebody like that to not only teach you but share with you and share the journey with you. It reminds me, as you were talking, it reminds me of one of my favorite There's a hero of mine. His name is Father Greg Boyle, and he started Homeboy Industries. And I won't bore you with all that stuff, but he's an amazing man, and he does a lot of commencement speeches. And he'll say, "This is not the place you go to; it's the place you come from."
Mhm.
And as you start your journey out, outside of Northeastern, now that your education is coming to a close, um, it's a place you come from, and you can take all that stuff with you. I just like that concept. Um, so, what organizations? Let's talk a little bit about career now. What organizations or companies are you interested in working for? Perhaps what is your dream job?
Mhm.
What are you thinking? What's next?
Yeah, so my last two internships, I had worked for a oncology drug development company, working in clinical stage, like therapeutic, like trials, testing, donor samples, stuff like that. Um, Startup company, startup. I think they started in 2015, so relatively new at the time, but have branches all over the country, or a few branches in the country. And then my last co-op, I worked for AbbVie doing R&D discovery research for one of their neurodegenerative disease teams. Actually, it was more like it was a cross-functional team. So I was doing work with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and other diseases too. And that was large biotech um, that had, thousands of employees, multiple locations over the entire world. Um, but I think my dream job or what type of companies I'm looking for medium, mid-size, developed companies that have trustworthy technology in the realm of neuroscience or gene therapy development, not necessarily for a neurodegenerative disease or some sort of neurological condition, but I very much like the idea of genetic therapeutics. I think there's a lot of research going into that. There's a lot of time being spent focused in that realm for plethora of things, and it's also very, very versatile in the world of like therapeutic development. Um, so yeah, stuff like that. I eventually, within the next decade, one of the largest, or at least what I consider one of the largest and most like promising areas, specifically of therapeutic development, is developing gene therapies for neuropsychiatric disorders. There's like a super, super high biological basis for schizophrenia, major depression, and bipolar disorder. And there are already companies working on finding gene targets to find cures for these disorders, and working for, I think there was actually acquisition from AbbVie from a company called Cerevel that was developing stuff like that, working on like developing therapies or target identification and validation, stuff like that, would be really like ideal for me. It makes my brain buzz thinking that I could be on like the front lines of developing a cure for something that's so debilitating for so many people.
That's great. So you want to go to San Francisco.
Mhm.
Why is that? Well, you tell me why.
Okay, yeah. So this is kind of like not an inside joke in like the biotech community, but so Boston is called Gene Town in like the biotech community. It is a large biotech hub of the country. San Francisco is called Biotech Bay. It's another large biotech hub of the country. I there's personal reasons. I am a very independent person. I like to explore. I don't necessarily like to sit in the same place for a long amount of time. And I've been out to San Francisco twice for the past 2 years for different reasons, and I really, really like it out there. And it's also an opportunity to expand my network to a completely different side of the country, like experience a different, experience a different part of the country. I've never really like I've done Midwest, I've done East Coast. Now I'm like, okay, it's time for West Coast. That's really why. And I also, there's a lot of really, really ingenuity or innovative tech coming out of places like UC Berkeley and Stanford, and there's a lot of startups coming from the basic science that's being done at those academic institutions.
Got it. Got it. No, that makes all the sense in the world. I mean, Northern California, I had a buddy that lived out in San Francisco, and I used to go visit him all the time. And there were times where I would just, go visit him, and he'd throw me the keys to his car, and he'd say, "Hey, he and his girlfriend were living together, and they had to work," and he'd just go explore.
Yeah.
And I just went I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And they treated me like so great. We, dined at great places and just traveled all around. It was just a beautiful, beautiful place. Um, who do you need to meet? This is the last question I'll ask you, because I know you got to get back to work too. Who do you need to meet? And who do you think you need to meet in terms of, taking that next step of moving? And are you looking like you want to secure a job first and then move, or are you going to go there first and then kind of hit the pavement, so to speak? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so I think, so I'm not taking like the craziest jump and risk of my life. I do want to secure a job first, but like I'm totally like I'm like, okay, I'll move within a week if I need to type thing. I think I need to meet either a group of people or a person that is excited to find someone with passion that is really, really ready to learn, and isn't, I don't know, isn't afraid to like take a risk of with someone, um, of my, like degree status and stuff like that. Cause I just graduated in May, but I'm super easily trainable and I'm really, really, I can get very, very, I get very passionate about different things. So, um, yeah, I think that's mainly, I think that's the answer to that question.
That's cool. That's cool. I appreciate that. Your educational experience, your interests, your passions. I mean, you took, the painting and the musical stuff and the volleyball. I would just think, for what it's worth, coming from an old guy like me, Cassidy, I think you're going to go really far. And you got great energy, and you're super whip smart, and keep the faith. Something will happen, and you're doing all the right things in terms of making those things happen. I know that about you. I just encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, and you've got a lot. You're talking about, take a risk. Yeah, you're young and you just graduated, but I would submit to anybody, any organization, the risk is pretty low, in fact. Because what good organizations, whether they're startups or medium-sized big companies, they hire smart, and they hire character, and you have a lot of that. I know that about you. So I want to thank you for taking the time to chat. Well, I'll put this up on LinkedIn, share it up. I'll do the same. And it's just great catching up with you. I haven't seen you in a while because you're in Boston and I'm in, Libertyville. But I just can't thank you enough for taking the time to chat. I love doing these things. If there's any other students out there that want to do this, hit me up. I love talking to students and hearing their stories and what their aspirations are. So again, Cassie, thanks so much, and we'll catch up soon.
Great. I really appreciate it. Thank you,
Okay.
Jim.
You bet. Have a good day.
You too.